Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Dark Matter podcast. Today, we actually have something super exciting. I know on the podcast here, people do love the interviews when I do interview guests. I've had a couple of people. I've had Jess on, I've had Steve on, I've had Lisa on, and now I actually do have someone super close to me, someone who's fantastic, really awesome. He's a copywriting coach. He shows copywriters how to start and grow a sustainable and profitable business, Mr. Nicholas Thorpe. And I've gotten to know Nick over the past couple of years. And so I'm really excited to do this with him. I knew as soon as I launched the podcast, we are going to get him on. And so, Nick, go ahead and just introduce yourself to the fans and folks at home.
I appreciate the mini introduction, man. What is going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Thorpe. I have an online company called Mastering Copywriting, and like Devyn said, what I do is I help freelancers to start and grow their freelance copywriting business so they can get copywriting clients and ultimately create a life of more freedom and really living a life that they feel aligned with. Right. So that's a little bit of if who I am. But again, for everyone here, thank you all for listening. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you, Nick, and I really want to paint the picture because now you're someone, you're 24, you've been a full-time business owner, you run your own business, you've been doing this for the past 2 years. So I guess I want you to kind of share your experience, share kind of like some of the challenges, some of the things that happen, and then we'll kind of work from the idea here of, what you've learned, and then we'll kind of really dive into the deeper thing. A massive trend, is the mindset and the personal development, the personal growth that goes into entrepreneurship and business. That's been really picked up a lot on. It's been trending a lot on my podcast, and I know that's something that you have a lot of experience and exposure in as well. So I do want to go there, but for right now, I want you to talk about how you knew it was the right time to get into starting your own business. Like, what were some of those thoughts? What were some of your feelings? What were you doing right before you started? And we'll kind of walk people through that journey.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I started my coaching business specifically in January of 2023. So that's when I actually started the company Mastering Copywriting. And before that, I was actually a freelance copywriter, just writing, copy, whether it was social media posts, ads, landing pages, emails for different business owners. And throughout that time, I was able to build a pretty profitable freelance copywriting business. I've been able to enroll countless of clients that ranged from, $300 to $1,000 up to $2,500, even closing $7,500 deals, which is pretty cool. And throughout that time when I was a freelancer, I kind of had a lot of people asking me, because of course, I built my network. People were seeing me on Facebook specifically because that was the platform that I use. Had a lot of people asking me, hey, what exactly are you doing to get clients, or what's been your strategy? And throughout this time, it's interesting because I I had this thought of, you know, because when people were asking me this, I was like, I don't know if I should, you know, switch directions and become that coach because and start coaching people on this because I kind of had doubts of like, oh my gosh, am I even qualified to do this? Or can I even do this? And although I have been able to create success within my own life as a freelancer, people have been able to see that through the marketing that I was doing, there was still a level of insecurity or still a level of
Maybe imposter
imposter
syndrome.
syndrome.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome. That's probably the better word, the more appropriate word to say. Imposter syndrome. And I kind of had to come to this realization where like because I'm a spiritual person. I'm a Christian, and to me, I find that God, and again for everybody listening to this, you have your own beliefs. I'm talking about my own. But God kind of puts certain situations in your life for a reason. You know what I mean? And I kind of had to come to my realization that I was like, hey, maybe all these people telling me, asking me all these, questions about, how to start actually building a business, how to get clients. Maybe God is talking through them for me to actually start my own coaching journey, actually teaching people how to do that. And I'll be completely honest with you, it was probably one of the most scariest decisions because I was like, man, like I already have income coming in as a freelancer, I already have clients. And although it was scary, honestly, it was probably the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Why do you think that is?
I think the reason why is because although it was uncomfortable to make the decision, I wouldn't be the person that I am today if I didn't make that decision. Whether it was a level of confidence, whether it was communication skills, whether it was social skills, like I wouldn't have been able to become that version. Because I don't know if anybody here knows, but as a freelancer, specifically as a copywriter, you're just writing posts and then just sending it over to, your client. Like you're not talking, you're not, you know, coaching people, telling them different things, changing beliefs, changing mindsets. Like you're not doing that. And I think for me, making that decision has completely revolutionized my life at a personal level and, even making an impact on a bunch of people, right? Specifically inside of my program and even, inside and even freelancers that I've connected with as well on a daily basis, right?
Right.
And it's it's funny because I probably would not see myself in this shoes back when I was 18 years old, back when I was 17, 16, because I know that Nick around that time, he was not confident. He got arrested for grand larceny. We could even talk about that as well if you wanna dive into that. Yeah, he got arrested for grand larceny. He again wasn't confident, wasn't able to speak his mind, express himself. He wasn't able to do any of those things. And I realized that the hard decisions you make in life is required because those hard decisions, especially when you lean towards it, especially if it's uncomfortable, because making the decision to even become a freelancer, even become a coach now, those are probably the most difficult decisions because as a coach and as a freelancer, you don't have a salary job. Like you're just out there working on commission. If you don't make a sale, you don't get paid, right? So making those decisions, although it was scary, although it was tough, not having any guaranteed income, the level of character growth, the development within myself, 10x
Mm.
from the time when I was a teenager to the time that I am now. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, I tell you, bro, decisions can especially the hard ones specifically, you lean towards it, you never know what's going to be the end outcome, whether it's personal growth within yourself, just any other aspect in your life.
And I want to really unpack that for the listeners because there's just so much there. And thank you for sharing all of this because I feel like we really painted the picture. You were someone that was not so confident, never seen themselves in a position of authority or in a position to really shape someone's future, shape their reality. And now you're in that position, you're confident, you're glowing, man. You're really in a position where you can impact people's lives and even for your business. For those of my listeners that are here, what copywriting is, and of course, Nick, feel free, you're the expert to correct me, but what copywriting is you're essentially creating content for like a business owner. So for example, okay, if I'm a business owner and I wanted someone to write my content, so I could have someone like Nick, who is fantastic. I mean, now he coaches people on doing it, but when he was a freelancer, I could find someone to create the posts on my Instagram, my Facebook, my LinkedIn. I could have someone write my ad details, like the copy and the ads. I could have someone write my emails. So you basically, that's what a copywriter does for those that don't know. And so Nick was doing basically that as a freelancer, having to hustle, having to like really get in front of people to get clients. But then once he got the clients, that was really it. It was just like you got the job and that was it. So talk about, because you really talked about how the strongest piece that you said was the decisions. and how you switching into running your own business was one of the best decisions. It was the scariest decision, but it was the best decision. And here on the podcast, we've had Jess, my girlfriend, and she's talked about, this concept of business is the best form of personal development you could have, right?
for
So
sure.
explain that, like kind of put that in your own words, and how does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I resonate with that a lot actually, especially over these last couple of years. I think because here's one of the biggest things that I realized when it comes to running a business. Like on the outside, like the people who are just looking, they're like, man, like that person he looks like he's thriving or she looks like she's thriving. Everything looks picture perfect. And there is a level to that. But at the same time, though, you never know what's going on in the back end of the business where the business owner has to make certain decisions that may be scary,
Hmm.
but he has to do that or she has to do that in order for them to either grow or thriving into the next level. And I've realized with that within myself over these past couple of years where, like I said, if going back to the decision piece, like there had to be certain decisions where I had to maybe take somebody off or implement somebody in, or maybe change a certain approach, or when I'm jumping on calls with people, how do I handle certain situations? And I find that character development in terms of the business sense, that happens when you go through hard stuff. Like I know that sounds kind of basic, but it's very true. Like when you go through hard situations. And I know for me, like for example, I've had weeks where I wasn't generating anything,
Hmm.
right? I could talk about that where I had weeks of, although I was putting in action, 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 there were days, weeks where I wasn't making anything.
Hmm.
And that those situations, like I'm actually grateful that that did happen because it allowed me to develop patience
Right.
within myself. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people strive to have, patience in their life. Like if, for those of you that listen to Alex Hormozy talks about this concept where, when you're, you know, at your deathbed, right? Hormozy says when you're at your deathbed, the best thing that a person can have well, not necessarily like if you scratch off money, the best thing that somebody can have is character traits. So one of the biggest character traits that he said is patience. But you have to develop patience by going through hard stuff throughout your lifetime.
Hmm.
And I know for me, those moments of like, man, like what's going on, you know, maybe not enrolling clients within, a couple of days or a couple of weeks, right? That just allowed me to develop this patience within myself. Um, because I know for me, when I was younger, patience was difficult, right? Having to wait, having to, you know, um, yeah, just having to wait for a certain outcome. Like that was difficult for me. But this journey of building a business just allowed me to develop that character trait of knowing that number one, you know, I need to stay aligned and stay patient throughout the journey for me to achieve the goals that I'm trying to achieve.
Right. And I love that you're bringing up patience because, a big thing that we've learned is, and I think you've really learned this as well, is that delayed gratification, right? It's that delayed,
Yeah.
like, and even in what you just shared here of like knowing that you're putting in the work, knowing that you're doing everything that you can do day in, day out, week in, week out, and still sometimes there's a couple of weeks that go by where we don't process a new deal. And, for us that live on that commission only, it's not a great place to be, knowing that you got expenses, for your business and for your personal life. You really want to make sure. And so I guess with that, right? And I just want to talk about delayed gratification for a moment because there was even something that I learned, right? Where it's just like everything that you're experiencing in your life right now is the maybe result of the things that you did 90 days ago. So if we really start using that as, our mantra, as how we should operate, like we recognize that the things that we're doing now, the things that we're experiencing now are the direct result of things that we did 90 days ago. And I think that's just so important. So I want you to talk about, how it felt in those times, because we can talk and skim over like you're a business owner and, there's a couple of weeks that go by that you're not processing any payments. And again, like we have bills, like you have bills, you have responsibilities. So how does it feel? Like, how do you really work through that, you personally? Because I know there's a lot of people that get anxious. There's a lot of people that get frustrated. There's a lot of people that get stressed out. And then there's a lot of people that maybe even want to throw in the towel. They're like, you know what, this is too stressful. I don't like being in a state of like not knowing when money's going to come in, not knowing if this is even paying off, not knowing if I'm going in the right direction. So talk about
Mhm.
your experience and knowing that no matter how tough it gets or how challenging things are, you're doing the thing that you're supposed to do. Like, how do you well, first of all, do you know that? Do you know that you're doing the thing that you
For
want to do?
sure. For sure. For sure. 100%. Mhm.
And how
Yeah.
do you know that? Like, how do you know that this is what you're supposed to be doing right now?
I view life like this. I believe everything aligns for a reason. Like I view life like a movie.
Hmm.
Like I view life like a movie. So like to answer your question, I how I kind of perceive life is like this is my chapter in the movie. Like this is my scene in the movie where and this is how I kind of view everything. I
Hmm.
think, and again, going back to the spiritual, I think God kind of creates a roadmap for everybody's life, clips of everybody's life, and puts it for the person. And God kind of gives the person different decisions or different choices that they have to make for them to create the full movie in their life,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. I like that.
That's kind of how I view things. And I think for me, honestly, I do believe this is the personal, building this online coaching business. I think it is for me because there were looking back at decisions that I've made that have been the scariest.
Hmm.
I think God aligned those pieces together for this to be now the movie that the chapter that I'm in right now.
Hmm.
Right? He gave me certain decisions. He's like, okay, Nick, you have this decision, you could do this decision. You could continue doing freelancing or you could do this. Which one do you feel like is in your heart right now?
Hmm.
And I lean towards the coaching. Awesome. God is like, okay, this is now your chapter.
Hmm.
Right. So that's kind of again how I view life. Now to answer the first question that you said, um, I believe you had asked, how do you like stay persistent through hard times, correct?
Yeah, good catch.
Yeah,
I did ask that. Yeah.
yeah. So I know for me, like I think all the anxiety, the thoughts, like that's always gonna say it. Like that's always gonna be there.
Hmm.
Like no matter how much level of success you have, whether you're making six, seven, eight plus nine figures, the thoughts are always gonna be there, right? Of like, oh my gosh, I should probably do this, or I know for me, like I used to do DoorDash, and there were times where I was like, man, I need to start. I might have to go back to doing DoorDash, right? Those thoughts are always there, and especially when things get tough in the moment. But I know for me, one thing that has helped me to keep going is this is really my why. Like
Hmm.
if I'm keeping it simple, it's really my why. And I feel like for a lot of people, like the first thing for everybody that's listening, the first thing that would get clear on is why are you doing the thing that you're doing?
Hmm.
Whether it's a job that you're currently working at, whether it's you're an entrepreneur, the business that you're building, no matter where you're at right now, why are you doing the thing that you're doing?
Hmm.
And for a lot of people are unclear on exactly why they're doing it.
Right.
For a lot of people, it could be, I'm just doing it for the money. Now, that can be a why, but that's not a strong enough why.
Hmm.
Like I know for a lot of entrepreneurs are like, yeah, I'll just do it for the money. And then when they don't see money, they're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go back to a job.
Right.
Right. And that happens, and I laugh about it, but at the same time, like that happens more often than most people think. Like they do it for the money. And when they don't see money instantly,
Mm,
they throw in the towel. They're like, this isn't for me, right? Because their why wasn't strong enough.
mm,
So I think for a lot of us, it's like it's getting clear on exactly why you're doing the thing that you're doing. Like I know for me, and the reason why I started both of my freelancing journey to begin with, and now my coaching business is for my children.
mm,
Like that's the number one reason why I started it,
mm,
right? Because I wanted to build a foundation for them where, because again, I don't really see myself just from my personal experience. Like I don't see myself working for something like that. That doesn't really align with me.
mm,
So my thought process is if entrepreneurship is going to be the thing that's going to allow me to build a foundation for them without having to work for somebody else, I'm going to lean towards entrepreneurship. And the thing that's going to keep me pushing forward is always having my why, quote unquote, my why in the back of my mind when things get challenging, whether there's months or weeks, I don't see any income coming in, days where I'm like, man, what the hell is going on? This happened, you know, things are the world is, just turning and I don't know what's going on right now in the business, right? Those my why is gonna allow me to keep moving forward.
mm.
So that would be my 2 cents to that. That would be my 2 cents to that.
Yeah, and I love that answer because I feel like, we're kind of in a day and age right now where, like you said, there's a lot of people doing things just aimlessly. They don't actually, they're not in alignment, and, for those that have been listening to the podcast, they know that I was out of alignment for a little while. So it's, we're seeing how, when you're not in alignment, you don't have that why, we end up just doing things to not really know why we're doing them. And so I love that you brought that up. And it's so crazy because, for those that don't know, I actually met Nick back in, it would have been December of 2021. And then we started working together at some capacity in January of 2022. And I've known you since. And I'll be honest, man, it's crazy to see your evolution, to see how much you've grown, and to see, just how well spoken you are. Because, yeah, from when I first met you, being just like a freelancer, just doing copy here and there. I think you were even still in school to like graduating and to now running your business, where again, now you're giving people the keys to their own kingdom. You're in a position now where you're showing others how they can create the dream life that they wanted for themselves. So if they're a copywriter, and if anyone's listening that is a copywriter or you're a freelance copywriter and you want to learn how to make, more of a consistent business, I'm going to send you Nick's information because I think he is someone that I vouch for, of course, just seeing his evolution and just seeing the success of his clients. But it's just so interesting because, again, your evolution, man, through this process, through building a business and going through it. And so it's interesting because, again, when you're freelancing, you're just working for yourself. But now you're in a position where you have a full-time employee. You've hired and fired people before. Uh, I hope I'm not overstepping, but you've generated, over six figures now at this point. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
You're 24 years old. You've done all of these things, and just to see that evolution is it's pretty exciting, right? So I think with that, Nick, was there any final pieces? Was there any like final message that you kind of wanted to leave the audience with? Because again, just highlighting your journey, someone that was like not so confident, maybe, had a lot of imposter syndrome, to then starting the, freelance business, working that for a bit, closing up to a $7,500 deals, to then starting your own business. Like the natural evolution is there. Obviously, you're still just beginning. There's still so much more growth to be had for you, and I see it in your potential. But is there any final things, as someone who's gone through this, is maybe living the life that some of my audience, wants to do? Like, what would you leave them with here today?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I kind of bring it up into a story. I'll talk a little bit more about my journey because this will actually integrate to my final message. So I kind of referenced this a little bit. I didn't get too in depth with it, but I got arrested for grand larceny at age 17 years old. Okay, so to keep it simple, I used to work at Target, and I would tell a bunch of people at my school, I would say, "Hey, again, do not recommend this." Just saying this. But I would tell a bunch of people, I would say, "Hey, or from my school, from my high school, 'cause I was at high school at the time. I'll tell a bunch of kids, I would say, hey, come to Target and I'll scan some of your items for free. Don't need to pay me, yada, 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 right? And the cameras caught me, of course. And I was doing this for about 3 months, and I basically stole $1,800. That's not the exact number. It was 18, like 39, something like that. Um, and basically came up to grand larceny. And I got arrested. Parents were frustrated, mom crying, dad upset, grandmother upset. Just create a whole, just very chaotic, very, very hectic in this time of my life. And after that, you know, I wasn't in jail or anything, but I did get arrested. It didn't go on my criminal record because lawyer paid everything off and yada yada yada. I was still too young to have that on my record. And after, I then went to school for criminal justice, and basically I was pursuing a major that I didn't really have any passion for. Um, and I don't know for anybody who's listening who's in college, but my number one suggestion would be find something that you align with and actually focus on it. Now, for me, this was a great lesson in my life where I was going to school for something I did not really align with for myself, but I only did it for my parents.
Hmm.
And then after I graduated from school of doing criminal just for 4 months, I then began my freelancing journey because I was like, you know what? I don't really see myself working for someone and I don't feel aligned with criminal justice. So I then started my freelance journey. And then after that, again, going back to what I was saying before, I had people ask me what's my strategies for getting clients. I then moved to coaching right after. Now, the reason, and this is where I'm currently at right now. Now, the reason why I'm saying all these chapters in my life is because, as you can see, like I started off as somebody who was insecure, got arrested, going to school for something that I didn't really have any passion for, and not really confident within myself internally. And then I made a decision to then do freelancing. Then after that, I made decisions to do coaching, right? And my final message, and the reason why I'm saying this story here is because no matter where you're at, no matter what obstacles, maybe traits that you have right now, maybe traits that you don't like, because I know for me, not feeling confident within myself was a trait that I didn't like. Being insecure was a trait that I didn't like. Understand that life moves like this. You will always have, and again, I think to me, this keyword decisions is probably like the biggest thing that I really want to instill in today's podcast.
Hmm.
You always have a decision to change your current reality. You always have a decision to change your situation. You always have a decision to change things. Like for me, I made the decision to myself that I'm not going to be the individual who is not confident. I'm not going to be the individual who's scared to express his thoughts, talk publicly in front of people. I'm not going to be that individual. And the decision I made is to get into freelancing and even invest into a public speaking course, a public speaking coaching program to help me to improve with that.
Hmm.
Right. And I've realized that, throughout these chapters, these phases of my life, all the growth has happened from just making a decision to change. Making a decision to change. And no matter where you're at, even if you've maybe, there's certain things that you align with the listener who's listening to this right now. Maybe if you're feeling you're at this stage where you're not confident within yourself, or, you maybe have done maybe some criminal activity like myself, whatever the case may be, understand that that's not you, but you can always change your situation by making the decision to change. By making the decision to change. So that would be my last thought here, with understanding that in life, you'll always have certain things come up. And to me, the things that come up, the decisions that you have to make, if you feel like it aligns with the person that you truly want to become, lean towards it because that's where the growth lies.
Yeah, I love that as a final message, right? Just knowing that the current chapter you're in doesn't dictate the future and where you're going. And then of course, you have the ability to change that course of history, change the course of your future by the decisions that you make. So I absolutely love this, Nick, and I appreciate you for jumping on. And my last question for you before we go ahead and wrap up here is if people do want to connect with you, where can they find you? Where's the best place that they can find you?
Yeah, so I have Instagram, I have Facebook. So my Instagram is I am Nicholas, so Nicholas Thorpe, Thorpe. And then my Facebook is Nicholas Thorpe. And then I have a Facebook group. So if you're a freelance copywriter, or somebody who's looking to potentially get into freelance copywriting, I have a Facebook group where I just share insights, give tips, strategies, and really just share the blueprint that has helped me to build my freelance copywriting business and has helped countless of people that I personally have mentored, clients of mine, to really thrive and get their business to the next level. That Facebook group is called Mastering Copywriting. So feel free to join in, and I'll welcome you in, and yeah, connect.
Let them know that you've come from the Dark Matter podcast. You'll be treated
For
extra
sure.
special. Well, Nick, this has
For
been
sure.
awesome. Of course, all of the links to Nick's socials will be in the show notes. So if you are interested in connecting with Nicholas, again, tell him that Dark Matter sent you, and you can find those links to Nicholas's socials there. But Nick, thank you so much for jumping on, and for all the
Of
Dark Matter
course.
listeners, appreciate you guys as always, and I'll catch you on the next one.